Hi, welcome to the Monday Manager Show. In today's interview, we are speaking with Dr. Kajal NK. She is an Ayurvedic physician, and we cover some very interesting topics from how to deal with difficult conversations with patients to the emotional toll that COVID 19 took on doctors and physicians, and the lack of support that doctors have in terms of dealing with their own mental health, to how Dr. Kajal has transitioned from clinical practice alone to now working with a private Ayurveda company and all the changes that that has entailed. So I hope you'll enjoy this. Ready?
Really?
Hi, Kajal. Shall we begin with the tough questions first?
Yes.
Don't worry. So you are an Ayurvedic physician. I'm quite curious about was your internship period where you did your residency and things like that, because from the outside it appears that physicians go through a grueling time during residency. So how was that experience for you?
Well, I think uh, the period of internship teaches you much more than that 5.5 years of your study period at college. So, how internship goes for us, for Ayurveda graduates, is that we go to different hospitals other than the hospital attached to our college. So, we also intern at allopathy hospitals.
Hmm.
So every month we change hospitals and go to different specialty hospitals. So you can say every month that we have to intern, it's a new learning process for us. We have to start from scratch. Think of it like, it's like someone's pushing you into a swimming pool and asking you to learn to swim by yourself. So it's exactly like that. We are not prepared when we enter into a internship. Like our professors don't tell us, how it's going to be, what are you going to face, how should you approach the dean or the senior doctor at that particular hospital. So you have to learn everything by yourself. And we also intern at our own hospital. So that we have been doing since we have joined college. So it's very easy. We know the staff, we know how processes work. But when you go to other hospitals, it takes a lot of effort. So unless you don't have your classmates with you, sometimes you have to go alone. It's a very difficult experience, actually.
Did you ever go to any hospital by yourself for an internship?
Yes, I did.
What
So it
happened there?
was hard because the first day you're supposed to go meet the dean and you're supposed to give a letter, and almost always they just dismiss, as they just sign, they don't even look at your face. And they say, "Ah, okay, someone will tell you what to do." And then no one actually tells you what to do. So they just ask you to sit. So what they expect is you go in the morning, punch in, sit for 10 hours, 12 hours, and punch out. No
But
one is going to tell
do you
you.
special? Are you posted according to your specialization? How does it work?
No, so see, BAMS, which is the Bachelor's of Ayurvedic Medicine and Surgery, is similar to MBBS,
Right.
but there is no specialization.
Okay.
So that's the basic degree that you're doing, which forms the foundation. So you have
So-
to intern in all specialties.
And then you sit in the general OPD. How does it work?
So yeah, so you have to sit in the general OPD, the emergency room, the pediatric OPD, then obstetric OPD. So you have to go through all the departments, all the specializations.
And how long is this internship period?
It's for 1 year.
Right. So what was the most challenging situation you encountered during that internship period of 1 year?
I think the most challenging would be um, actually talking to the patients' families,
Hmm.
because in two of the hospitals, the interns were asked to handle the families, and we were like the communication channel between the senior doctor and the family. So whenever there's a difficult news to break, we were not trained as to how to approach the family.
Right.
You need to be sensitive, and almost always, if there was, how patients' families react, right? So all the anger, frustration would be directed towards the interns. But we had no tools to handle that or know how to handle that situation.
Do you still remember the first time you had to have a difficult conversation with the family?
Yes, so there was this case. where a patient had tetanus and the prognosis was very bad. So, unfortunately, the patient passed away at midnight, and I was at the night duty with my friend. So, we immediately called the senior doctor, and he said, you can declare the patient as dead and you have to inform the family. So, my friend was literally shivering, she couldn't do it. So, I was like, just write, complete the case sheet, and I will go and inform the family. So, when I did, they started blaming that we did not take care of the patient and treatment wasn't given, which was not the case. We had already informed them that the prognosis is bad, but I was the only doctor there with my friend. Both of us were females, and there was no one else in the hospital, so it was a bit of a challenge to manage that.
All right. And how old were
And
you at that point?
sorry.
How old were you at that point?
Oh, I was around 23.
Wow, so very young, right? And having
Yeah.
to convey such difficult news.
Yes, and that
So,
was my first time that I ever had to declare a patient as dead. So it was surprisingly I wasn't nervous. But yeah, I did not expect the reaction because we had already informed them. But I totally understand the feelings of the patient's family. But yeah, it was a bit of a scary situation.
and over time, did you ever get used to having those difficult conversations? Did it ever become easier for you?
No, no, it never gets easy. Every time you have to break up bad news, it's always difficult. So
And you shared
yeah.
that you were never guided or you guys were never given any tools of how to have that conversation. So how did you pick that up?
You just, learn as and when you keep encountering such situations. And sometimes we used to watch how our senior doctors would do it. So we would watch and learn, or we would just learn with experience. But yeah, we were never taught as to how to, because see, it's a very important part of medical practice, how to interact with the patient and their family. But that was never taught to us.
And when did you move out from your internship? Like, what's the next professional step?
So after internship, you're all on your own. So most of my friends actually wrote the entrance exam to do their masters, but that again is
Okay.
another 2 years of study with internship. And then either it's completely up to you. So if you want to gain more experience, you work at a hospital or a clinic under a senior doctor, or right away start your own clinic. But most of us don't do that because we still need to gain that experience.
And did
So
you find that period challenging, or were you easily able to find your next opportunity after internship? How was that period?
it was extremely challenging. I remember most of my classmates who did not enroll for their masters, all of us struggled. So, whatever offers we were getting, either it was we had to work for free and the reward would be you're getting experience, or it would be a very minimum salary, like below the basic salary. So, if
And
you wanted to learn, you had to just agree and just, join somewhere.
so, how did you handle? Was there any, because in India, there's always a lot of family pressure as well. Was there
Yeah.
pressure on you when you were trying to find your new role and in this transition period between the end of your official training and then finding professional opportunities?
For me, it was not.
Okay.
In fact, my family said, you should take a break because 5.5 years of studying medicine is not easy. It's very taxing. So my family said, it's okay, take a break. You don't have to join immediately. But I was adamant because that it's not good to have a gap. And all my friends and peers would also say, don't give a gap, don't give a gap. So I actually found a small clinic at this village, which was like 30 kilometers away from where I live. And I decided to go there. So my family wasn't happy because it was so far and I had to go on my own. But yeah, that's what I did.
And what was that first experience like?
It was nice.
Anything surprised you there?
Yeah, the one thing was every patient insisted on getting injected. So they had no patience. Like, say, someone comes with a backache, and I'm like, okay, you can take this medicine. They're like, no, you have to give me an injection. So that was a bit surprising for me because they did not want to give that 3, 4 days to recover. They wanted to recover instantly. So
Right.
later I realized that it would affect their work. And, that day's work, they would not receive that day's wages. So that is why they are forced to do that.
And one of the things which in previous conversations you have shared is that doctors aren't really trained about how to communicate with patients and how to communicate with the general people who come to their care. How did you end up learning that? Because, like you said, you finished your training then, and even during training there wasn't much focus on the communication side of things, and then you found this new role where again you were dealing with a very different kind of an audience in a different setting. So how did you pick up those skills? Was it easy? Like, did you consciously work on it, or did it just happen with experience?
It was not easy because initially, when I started practicing on my own, sometimes I would get feedback saying that you're too soft, you need to speak louder or you need to be very stern with patients. And when I did that, then they would say this doctor is very rude. So it was trial and error, basically. And uh, there's a certain way you have to behave. You can't be yourself completely, right? So once you get into that zone of being a doctor, you need to have certain qualities and you need to have a certain persona. So it was trial and error for me. So it was a difficult phase. But yeah, with experience and trial and error, I learned.
So how did you figure out the balance between being too soft and too harsh?
So, see, it depends on how the patient responds. Sometimes even the patient's family gives you cues, whether you need to be a bit strict with the patient or not. So it
What cues do you look for?
so basically when you start questioning the patient, the family starts budging, they say no, he's not sharing the entire history, or he's not serious, or he will not follow.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes even after the patient leaves, the family member comes back and shares a bit more about how the patient is.
Right.
But as and when you gain experience, you don't even need that. You can just you can sense how the patient is, and accordingly approach the consultation.
So, okay, if I'm a patient and I'm not being open and forthright with you, so then does that mean you adopt a more harsh approach or a more soft approach? How do you decide that?
That has to be a bit soft because I have to gain the patient's trust and make the patient feel comfortable.
And how do you
And
gain their
if it has,
trust?
so so initially the patient doesn't talk much. So say someone comes, they don't talk much, they answer yes or no. So then you start, asking a bit personal questions like, okay, where do you work? What do you do? And then they start slowly getting comfortable. And then one approach we use is we ask them to visit 2, 3 times.
Right.
So we give them shorter durations of treatments to also see how it's working and to also get more history. But most cases, patients come with their family, so we get that information from their
Right.
families.
Understood. So the scenario that you're describing is one where it's not a serious issue that they have come, or not an issue that requires urgent, immediate care, right? So then
Yeah.
you have that time to build that rapport with the patient and their family.
Yeah.
What about instances where the patient has come in need of some serious, urgent care, right? Then the timelines are constricted. How do you even make an effort to gain their trust during those situations? How do you handle that?
If it's an emergency, then we just uh, rely on what the family says because they know if the patient can't talk or is in a situation where they can't communicate, we rely completely on what the family says and if they have any medical records. But at that time, we cannot think of all this. So the patient's life is more important. So at in these situations, we also have to be a bit rude, because sometimes the family insists on being there inside the chamber, and we do not allow, you know how the protocol is, right? We don't allow family inside, because then we won't be able to do our job. So in those situations, we have to be a bit rude and strict.
And have
But
you
I
ever
don't
faced, yep, sorry.
we don't get time to build a rapport or be, you know
Right.
exchange pleasantries.
And have you ever faced any blowback from patients or families in those kinds of situations where they insist that you hear them out, but you just don't have the time for that?
Yeah, many a times. So at that time, what we do is we ask our nurses to, we tell them, you take the history, because they want to say it, and we would already know what's going on. But, the family insists on sharing every detail, which is the right on their part. So we usually tell the nurse to take the entire history, or someone from the staff to do that. But yeah, there are times where the reaction gets a bit aggressive. So we have to just somehow handle it, or ask someone else, because we can't waste time on that. We
Right.
have to attend to the patient.
And over the years, do these kinds of interactions take a mental toll on you?
Yeah, yeah, it definitely does, because people at when there is a medical emergency, they are in that frame of mind where they don't know what they are saying, or but it affects us, even though we make an effort to not get affected by it. It's still somewhere deep down, it kind of impacts us. So
Any case that, deeply affected you in your career so far, like emotionally? Because usually, at least from the outside, the image of doctors is one of these cold hearted people who just tell you what to do, and then they are done with it. So have you ever had any case that affected you a lot emotionally? How did you handle that?
well, there was one case again where this patient was, I think, 21 years old, and there was no hope. So when they brought the patient to the hospital, there was no hope of the patient surviving. And again, I had to break that news to the family, and I did. And that family said, I know, we know you can do something. Please do something. We are ready to do anything, and we will do whatever you say. And they were just pleading so much. And I was helpless, because we could not do anything. We had done what we could. And that sometimes that scene plays in my head, because, of course, people, when they think of a doctor, they expect everything to be solved. But sometimes it's not in our hands. And to see that helplessness in the family and also in ourselves, it's very difficult. And the worst part is, it will keep happening. It's not like it'll happen only once. So in the career of a doctor, it'll happen many times. And even though you genuinely want to save that patient, sometimes you cannot. So yeah, that was one case that affected me a lot. And also the patient was very young, just 20 years old. So yeah, it never gets easy, no matter what you do to come out of it, or feel better. It's always going to affect you.
Is there any kind of a support system that exists for doctors to learn to cope with these challenges, or to just, even talk out the stress that they feel, or the um, mental health challenges that may arise over the course of many years? Does any
No,
support system exist?
no, there's no such support system, or anywhere we can go to ask for help. So you just have to, either talk to your peers or someone you know. But no, like, see, in the countries like UK, you have to have a psychologist assigned to you. So something like that would be great, but we didn't have anything. I don't think there is even now. in hospital setups. I don't think there's any option like that.
And when you look at your friends and colleagues who also you studied with and who you hear about and are in touch with, do they ever open up with you about any of these challenges?
Yeah, because I think we're the only people who will understand, right? So it's often we uh, go to our friends and colleagues to talk about. But yeah, see, even though we do that, we still don't have that toolkit to manage ourselves. It's just that we share, vent, and that's it.
All right.
But beyond that, we don't know how to cope.
So there's no way that physicians are able to learn strategies that can help them cope or even manage uh, the kind of mental and emotional toll that their work takes.
Yeah.
Is that something that has ever occurred to you that that might be worth working on? Like how do we
It,
solve this? Like who will solve this problem for physicians? Because India as a country is one which is already dealing with a massive shortage of trained physicians, right? Now, what you are saying is that these trained physicians are out there in the world handling stressful situations, etc. But nothing to, there's no support system for them as such to help them manage the mental and emotional stress that comes with the work.
yeah.
How do we address this?
See, I think it has to start from the medical institutions, right? We need to be trained right at the college level itself. So it has to start from there.
Trained in what?
Just, how, first of all, how to approach these situations that you're going to face
Right,
during your practice, right? And how to isolate yourself. Sometimes you need to do that, right? So I think it should start from the college levels because we start seeing patients right during our college itself. So if they start doing that right there, then you get a little experience and exposure, and you learn to apply those tools in
right,
those situations. So you get better at it when you're ready to start working.
right. Because especially in the case of physicians, you can to a certain degree predict the kind of situations you'll encounter, right?
Yeah,
You will encounter a situation where, like you had to do, you'll have to convey difficult news to families. You will encounter situations where other people may not understand your intentions in the right way or may get upset at you. You will encounter situations where there might be certain communication challenges, not with necessarily with patients families, but with probably your own colleagues, your seniors or your juniors, right? So that's a good point. So it should start in colleges, but will it? Do you see any conversations happening around this in your community?
no, not at all actually. I haven't heard, or even my juniors never talk about it. Because it's like they've accepted their fate. They have to learn everything themselves. They're not going to get help in that domain. So the only thing in their mind is let's complete our course, finish our internship, and pass out. So yeah.
Right. So now, yeah, that's an interesting challenge to think of. Um, Maybe someone will listen to our interview and start uh, get in touch. So after
But
your, yeah, go
college,
ahead.
we are kind of like protected in a sense that if there's any difficult case, our professors will take care of it, and we will not be involved. So we sometimes don't even have an idea of what's going to happen outside our college and hospital.
Yeah,
So I think that is also one point where you don't realize until you're out there. So
yeah, exactly. So there is like a cocoon in which you do your training and then the real world comes.
yeah,
And I at least having myself worked in around rural health facilities for many years, I can say that it can get very challenging and taxing
Yeah.
on doctors, because you have facilities where maybe there's just one physician or two physicians and they have to be on call all the time.
Yeah.
It can be a very difficult situation. So,
And it's
Kajal,
more difficult for women doctors
yeah.
because, you know, if there's a male doctor, people might be a bit less aggressive. But if it's a woman doctor, then they will not think of that. So even that is a challenge for women.
Did you face any challenges like that, where you saw that, male colleagues were being treated differently or facing lesser challenges?
Yes, so we were never given challenging cases. And I remember one instance wherein we were asking a lot of questions to this senior doctor, and he was like, "Why do you want to know? You're going to get married and, be a housewife, so you don't have to break your head over it." So that was like, that is the mentality they have towards women doctors, because, I mean, interns, because they expect us to get married and not continue practice. So we face that a lot in almost all hospitals, as because we're a group of five girls in one internship batch. So we would always face that. By the third or fourth month, we got so used to it, it wouldn't affect us anymore. But
Right.
that would happen.
And you'd face this similar, did you face similar attitudes once you started practicing in the world out there, or outside of your training,
No.
where patients treat you differently than male physicians?
Yes, so sometimes if it was an emergency, they would say, we need a male doctor because they think that we can't handle it. So yeah. And also one more thing is, if you don't look the part or you look too young, also you're dismissed. You're like, we need to see a senior doctor.
Right.
So that we faced a lot. So yeah.
You were telling that after training, you started working at this clinic, which was 30 kilometers away. How long did you stay there? What was the experience like over there?
I was there for almost 6 to 8 months, and actually really enjoyed my time there because the people were so kind, and very nice environment to work with. And once you start speaking the language of the people, in the sense, you know how they are, they really start trusting you a lot. So it was a good experience, and I got to see different cases, not the usual ones we see in the cities. So it was a very interesting experience, and I'm glad I actually did that, because most of my friends didn't do. I think I was the only one who went to the rural side to work immediately.
I was
So
going to bring that. I was going to bring that point up. Like, m- lot many state governments in the country are also struggling with attracting physicians to come and work in rural areas, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
here you voluntarily went and worked there. Any advice on how can we make the rural work environment more attractive for physicians, or should they inherently want or have that desire to go there?
I think it's both, because uh, I think why doctors don't like to go in the rural setup is sometimes it's very slow. You have a lot of slow days. So say in a week you might have just 3 days where a lot of patients come in.
Right.
Now, that also depends upon the staff who runs that center. So they sometimes they come in really late, or they don't have a fixed schedule, because of which the patients don't come because they are unsure, right? So that is one more issue. And especially for Ayurveda doctors, the pay is very less. So that is another big issue. So we're not paid even like the basic remuneration that we should get. And that is one more reason why that happens. But if you see a lot of people who have private practices, they will go to the villages
Right.
and they
Yeah.
see a lot of success.
Hmm. And that brings me to the point. Another thing that I've heard physicians are never trained for is that once you finish your training, how do you actually go about either setting up your own practice or finding jobs and roles in the wider world out there? Because whenever I see ads that come out from any hospital or clinic, there are so many applicants, right? So not many physicians. So getting a job, even once you get your degree and your certification, is not an easy thing. So how did you navigate these challenges of finding roles and opportunities?
Uh, see, many of my friends actually join nursing homes, right? And there's always usually nursing homes have vacancies. And but trying to find a job to purely practice Ayurveda is extremely difficult. So I literally approached clinics and I asked the senior doctors, can I work with you? So I had to go to clinics and Ayurveda centers and hospitals to ask for work. Also, my seniors who are already working, but it's very hard. But yeah, I mean, now the situation is different. So when I finished my internship, I think 7 years ago. So 7 years ago, it was extremely, extremely difficult. But after COVID, it's gotten better. So now you will see a lot more clinics, a lot more hospitals. But before 7 years ago, there was just one Ayurveda hospital in where I live, private one. And there was two government. So government, it's very hard. You can't get in, and you have to have your masters. So you only have the option of either approaching clinics or working in a allopathy OPD or a nursing home. So during my when I passed out, it was extremely difficult. That's why most of them did their masters just to avoid that period of not having to find work.
Right. And where were you posted or where were you working when COVID happened?
I was working in this Ayurveda hospital where I live. So it's a private hospital. So I was working there during COVID.
And what was that period like? Like, do you remember when the lockdown started and April of 2020 when everything was shut down? Were you working that at that time?
So for the first month I was, and then they had to close the hospital
Wow, so they
because
had to shut down the hospital as well.
yes, yes, they had to. I remember the police had come and they were like, "You can't keep it open. You have to shut this place." So yeah, we had to stop. So that's when I started my online consultations.
And that first month when you were actually working in the hospital, what was that period like? Because the cities would have been empty, right? And you'd
Yeah, yeah,
be going into work.
right. So like the transport would come to pick me up from home because I was not allowed to drive. So uh like it was scary initially, because the entire city is empty and even the patients were scared because no one knew what was going on. So it was a bit scary, but later, yeah, I got used to things. And I also had a lot of patients contacting me who had got COVID. So yeah,
Any challenging situation during that time, during COVID?
challenging situations. Well, at home also, I think two of my family members got COVID at the same time. And so had it was difficult to juggle that because my mom had it and then my sister had it and it
Right.
was so uncertain, right? And I would also help other patients find beds. Uh, so we had this government hospital who were giving free treatments for patients of COVID irrespective of their financial status. So I was doing that as well, trying to help people find beds in the hospital because it was so difficult.
Right.
And it was hard for me also to see people struggle. So I spent my time doing that during COVID.
And as a physician, how did you go about learning more about what was actually going on? How did you bridge that information gap? Because suddenly this thing has happened, everything has shut down, but there is a lot of misinformation going around. There's a lot of WhatsApp forwards happening. So, how did you bridge your information gap? What sources did you look at? How did you handle that situation?
So I was a part of various groups of doctors. So these groups had a lot of senior doctors who were giving us the exact correlation of Ayurvedic aspect of things, and also a lot of doctors were treating COVID patients even in the ICU, and they would always share their treatment protocols. We would have live sessions also on this. So that is how I built my knowledge and understanding. And so we had a set treatment protocol. So this is what we had to do if we would encounter a patient with COVID, and based on the different stages and symptoms. So the Ayurveda community was actually very active during COVID. We also had a group where we all gave free consultations to COVID patients. So we did not charge them, and we were available 24/7. So even on WhatsApp or on call, we would just help patients, and we have seen a lot of great results actually with the Ayurvedic treatment protocols.
Right. And that COVID period where we had the first set of we had lockdowns in 2020, and then in 2021 when the second wave arrived, it was even worse than the first. How did you handle that situation as a physician on a mental and emotional level?
Well, actually, it was a very hard time for me, and I was not in a great place during the second wave. So I just kept pushing, taking each day as it came. But after it was over, I started seeing a lot of the negative effects on my health, like physical health and my mental health as well. So yeah, it only hit me after it was over. So it
Right.
was not great.
And how did you cope with it? Or was it just
Actually,
you buried all that?
yeah, I just buried all that. I did not have anyone to talk to, as in someone who could help me. Of
Right.
course, my family, they'll listen, but they don't know what to say, right?
Yeah.
So, mm, but it was a hard time for me.
And afterwards, when these things that you had buried, when they emerged, did you seek any help then?
Yes, I did, because it was, I could see it affecting my health. Uh, and I was like, okay, it's time that I, approach someone to help me. And I did, and it took a very long time.
Did
It took like,
you, sorry to interrupt,
yeah.
but was there any certain tipping point where you felt, okay, now it's too much, I need to reach out for help?
I've had this chronic fatigue, and I was not as how do I put it? Mm, engaged in my work like I used to be, or excited to show up for work. It's just like just do your stuff and you're done. You wake up, go to work, you're back, and that's it. So yeah, it was like I was just watching a movie play in front of me,
And were
and
you
I was not.
thinking that it'll just pass,
Yeah, so I
but
was
it
like,
didn't?
okay, it didn't. And I was like, okay, now it's getting too much. So I need to do something about it.
Okay. And how did the help that you sought out help improve the situation?
So, slowly things started to unravel to me as to why I'm feeling this way. And the process of unraveling itself was healing. So
Right.
when I started to see what was affecting me and how it was, that itself started helping me. And there are some ways you where you need, which helps you to disconnect when you're doing your work, which is very important. So that's how you can protect yourself.
And your friends and other colleagues that you had been in
Yeah.
touch with, how did they handle that COVID time? Were they
They
going
also,
through something similar?
yeah, the same thing. And even they, just buried themselves in work and did not, they're like, okay, it'll pass. It's a part of the jobs. Most of us felt that way.
And did it pass for most of them, or did they also have to reach out for help?
No, I don't, not all of them did, but they reached that point where they, got frustrated or went into depression, and they found it hard to come out. But of course, talking to your friends or colleagues who have gone through the same thing also helps sometimes. So, because not everyone is open to seeking help, right?
Right.
So, some of them did not, and
And
sometimes like, I don't need it,
yeah.
so I can handle it or something.
And have you ever noticed any pressure as a doctor? Because normally the outside world expects doctors to have solutions, right? And have you ever noticed this pressure as a doctor that, you know, I am supposed to have answers, but I myself am struggling with an issue and people just don't get that.
Yeah, like we feel that all the time. Like we can't have all the answers. So, especially in COVID, right? Initially, no one knew what was going on. So, we did not have answers. But then people were like, you have to, I mean, you're supposed to have the answers. So, that also, uh, made us feel helpless and lost. Like, what are we doing? We're supposed to know what is going on and, know what we have to do. So, yeah, I think that was a point of change for medical professionals. And it's like anything can happen now. Any new disease can come in, and we just have to be prepared.
And looking back at that time, uh, do you think you came out of it in a stronger, with a stronger set of tools to cope with stress and mental challenges, or are you still figuring that out?
Mm, I think I am still figuring it out, but yeah, I would say I'm equipped better
Right.
to deal. But something new always comes up, and you can't be prepared for it. So I think every day is a learning.
Understood. And it was during this COVID time where you had left, where the clinic had shut down, and then you said you started an online practice. So was that the only practice you were involved in during the COVID period from 2020 till 22?
Yes. Yeah. Because I had seniors at home,
Right.
so if I would be on the front line, then it would be a bit difficult. So
Right.
I
And
had to make that choice. Yeah.
how did you handle the challenge of running an online practice?
So luckily, the Ayush Ministry released a protocol for teleconsultation.
Okay.
So they gave us a set of things that we have to do, the way we have, what all we have to mention in our online prescriptions and all of that. So that is what I followed. So that way, actually, the Irish Ministry was really helpful, and they were putting out a lot of toolkits for doctors to practice online consultations. So I actually used that, and it was very helpful.
And did you find any challenges in um, having patients come to you? Or did they just, was it easy for them to just know, okay, Dr. Kajal is here, I can reach out to her?
No, no, actually, it was easy. At that time, the lot of online consultations were going on. Like even my friends were doing a lot of them. So it was easy. Even though it was something new, people adapted to it very quickly. So it was not a challenge.
And since then, have you continued that, or have you? Of course, now you're working with Nirogam full time. So when was it that you decided, okay, I'm doing this online practice, but maybe I should try to do some other kind of work as well?
Yeah, I still do consult online. So initially I would do it as a full-time thing, but now it's part-time because, as you said, um, so in between, I was, only seeing a certain kind of patients or cases coming to me, and I was not spending a lot of time studying.
Right.
So, so I was like, I want to go back to my books, and also there has been after COVID, people have become very interested in learning about Ayurveda. So I wanted to contribute to that as well. And now, there are so many people doing it. There's a lot of confusion as well. People don't know what to do. So it's very important to put out a clear message, but yeah, it has to be simple also because now not only doctors, but everyone wants to talk about health and wellness, right? So the audience is confused as to who is the authority. So, yeah.
So how did you decide to go back to the books? Like, was it self-study that you began, or what was your approach during this shift?
So it was self study because actually, if you see COVID and how Ayurveda has links to what happens in COVID, they are very basic concepts. So I was like, I have to go back to the basic concepts and strengthen that and read in between the lines. So that is why I went back to self study. And there are so many conditions that can be treated with very simple interventions in Ayurveda. So that is why I was like, it's time I go back to the basics and strengthen that again. So it was
And
self.
and then you started looking for roles elsewhere as well,
Yes, I did.
right?
Yeah.
And what was your criteria in deciding, okay, what kind of work do I need to do? Did you think, okay, let me go back to a clinical practice, or was it, oh, let me try something beyond the clinical space?
Yeah. So already had my clinical practice. So I just wanted to do something other than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you have any criteria in mind about the kind of place you wanted to work at?
I did because at the time when I was looking, most um, openings were just about, creating content to market an Ayurvedic product.
Yeah.
But there were actually, I don't think there were any other companies wanting to do anything other than that.
Yeah, it seemed almost like a gold rush after COVID that there was this huge attention towards Ayurveda, and you had new Ayurvedic companies popping up left, right, and center, right?
Yes. And some of the job posts, they didn't even want you to work. They just needed you to be shown as an employee. So there were so many posts like that. I was also approached by a few people. So basically, they were just trying to, uh, Ayurveda had its moment, right? It was booming. So they were like, let us also do something in that. But yeah, most of them were for marketing, make formulation for kadas and stuff like that. So yeah, a lot of job openings like that, which I did not want to do. So it was very clear from the beginning.
And why did you join your present place of work?
Well, first of all, the job description was like totally different from the hundreds that I had seen. And the interview process itself was so exhaustive. I was like, okay, this is a place which means serious business, right? It's not just for making money using Ayurveda. So, yeah.
What was different
So
about the job description?
everything was, so all the expectations were clearly mentioned, and it was not like you have to formulate a product. you have to write the content for marketing, or it, how should I put it? So if you see the normal job descriptions, they will just say you have to work for so many hours, give content for a website or a blog, and that will be reviewed by another team. And usually that team has no Ayurvedic professional. So there's no point putting out content like that, right? So if you're going to ask a doctor to give their expertise on something, and then someone who's from a non-medical background wants to change it completely, then your message is not going to go across. And most of the times the company has no clue as to what Ayurveda is. So I remember seeing my company's website and seeing what products they offer, and what they have described about, and I was impressed because it was not generic like the other websites. And I'd also searched our company's owner, and I had seen his LinkedIn and his Quora, and I was like, okay, he has a lot of knowledge on Ayurveda, which usually founders don't have, even now. So that is what drew me to my company.
And how has this experience been for you in terms of there's no patient consultations as such, right?
Yeah,
So, as a physician, do you sometimes feel lost? Because doctors are trained to serve patients, right?
yeah.
How did you handle that transition?
I think there are so many other ways to reach your patient other than consultation as well, right? Like helping them navigate through their health concerns, and helping them with tools that they themselves can use in their life to, have better health, have a better lifestyle. So we're not helping them just for when they are sick. We are going to help them to have a healthy lifestyle and a healthy diet to ensure that even though they fall sick, they know how to handle it themselves, right? So, yeah, you see, even Ayurveda preaches the same thing, right? It's not only about treating a patient when they have a disease, it's about giving them the tools to have a healthy life. So, that is what we are trying to do.
And were there any situations where you felt pushed out of your comfort zone?
Yes, they were.
Can you describe any?
So, I'm working with with uh, people from different teams, right? So it's not just a group of Ayurveda doctors that I'm working with. So it has taught me a lot of things. I've picked up a lot of things along the way. And as a doctor, I would not have interacted with these people, right? Even in a hospital setup, I would just do my job, see my patients, and that's it. But here I'm learning about the HR department. You have our logistics and product development and all of that. And
Surprised
yeah,
you the most about interacting with these other people?
surprised here where I'm working currently, like everyone was actually kind and understanding. Because I remember working in one of the Ayurveda hospitals, which was also kind of like had a corporate setup, and this other teammates were not as friendly and not as helpful, or they would always wait for you to make one mistake. But where I'm working right now, one thing I've actually learned is it's okay to make mistakes, and that has really changed things for me. So it's a very positive work environment, which you don't get even if you're just purely doing your clinical practice.
And how has this environment helped you?
It's
Helped you
actually
in
helped.
what way?
It's helped me be personally. It's helped me be a better person and improve a lot of things. With respect to my personality and how I should present myself. as an Ayurveda doctor to people who don't know about Ayurveda. Because, see, again, as I said, we are not taught all this in college. We are not taught how to talk about our science. We are not taught how to, you know, deal with encounters. Like, we have so many allopaths saying Ayurveda is a scam or you're not scientific, it's a pseudoscience. If we were taught how to speak up, it would have been a great thing, right? Because sometimes, I don't know if I should say this, but in colleges, our professors would say, why have you come to this college? Or why did you choose this uh, stream of medicine? So from the day one, we have a doubt, like, you know, is this going to work, or is this the right profession, or does Ayurveda actually work? So when you're doubtful from day one, then it gets difficult. So
Right. And when you started communicating with this team, which didn't know as much about Ayurveda, of course, what challenge did you face in trying to convey your point of view across?
was the challenge was to get them to, I think, be open to the concepts and trying it out, which is common with people, they, especially with Ayurveda, they want proof, or they want, like, give us proof, give us research articles. But I had this patient who was asking me a lot of questions about one of our medicine supplements, right? And she's taking at least 5 allopathy medicines. So I asked her, did you ask these questions to your allopathy doctor? And she's like, no, I did not. And I was like, did he give you research articles about the side effects of these medicines? And she said, no. So why do we have to defend or justify all the time?
Hmm.
It's because I think there's a lacking in us also as a Ayurveda community. So yeah, so that is a challenge wherever you go. But uh, my team was very eager to learn, and yeah, they slowly started trying things, but we're still in that process of getting them to fully trust and adapt.
And how did you get them to start? How did you get the team to become more open to trying or even understanding Ayurveda?
So I started explaining them things,
Because,
which
sorry to interrupt, but the reason I ask is a lot of Ayurvedic companies nowadays, especially the ones that cropped up over the last 4 5 years, they are filled with team members who don't have much understanding of Ayurveda. They have physicians who do, but then there's this big communication gap, right? Where someone might have worked for 4 5 6 years in an Ayurveda company, but still know very little about it. So, how did you get overcome this gap and start to get the team interested?
so initially I was like, you need to know about the products you're selling. So you have to know something about it, right? To understand your job and work better. So that is how I approached it. So I was like, let's learn about some basic stuff. So if a customer calls you and asks you, you have some answers to give. So that is how I started. And then I started talking about small things that they can do every day to feel better. And we had an Ayurveda challenge where we would talk about their lifestyle and routine, and I would give them small tasks to do every day, and all of them noticed changes in their health and mood. So when they started seeing those changes, then they were like, okay, there is something in this, and it is helping. And then, of course, initially they would be perplexed by patients saying that, oh, this is really working well for me, or my blood pressure is in control now. But I'm sure they would have questions in their mind. But now, since we are engaging in these conversations, they're starting to understand how it works, and they're
Right.
slowly uh, open to trying them out for themselves as well. So, yeah.
But I do know that you started certain challenges and things to make things fun for the team as well in there. effort to adopt or understand Ayurveda. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Why did you even decide? Because the traditional approach is, okay, I'm a physician, I'll make a PowerPoint presentation, I'll explain everything to you, and then I'll share the presentation with you, and that's it. You guys, whatever questions you have, the answers are in the presentation. But here you have adopted a very different approach. You have adopted the approach of gamifying the whole process of understanding Ayurveda. So can you tell us a bit more about that?
See, if I explain stuff about Ayurveda, half of it will, go over your head because the science is in such a way that usually whoever presents it, they use a lot of Ayurveda jargons and you will not understand a lot of it. So the only way is to actually practically show that how it works and how aligned it is, with your life. So Ayurveda very beautifully talks about the circadian rhythm or dinacharya, right? It gives you a book on what you should do from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. So it's not like it's saying you have fever, you have to do this. It's also talking about how you should lead your life. So that's what I was. Then I thought, let's try something practical, something fun, so that through these small fun tasks, they will start to learn. So after every challenge or at the end of the entire challenge, we would have calls and I would ask them, how did you feel or what change did you notice after doing this practice for so many days? And all of them would have positive experiences to share. And sometimes during while they were sharing, it occurred to them like, okay, this really works or this really made me feel better. So instead of preaching, it's best to show them how it works.
One challenge which many people always feel with Ayurveda is that if I Google, okay, according to Ayurveda, what should I do for XYZ, right? I get a whole long list of things to do. You know,
Yeah.
you have to correct 10 things in your food, you have to correct 20 things in your lifestyle, right? So it becomes very overwhelming. But
Mhm.
what approach did you adopt in this challenge? Like, did you give the team again a very long list of things to do?
No. So we just gave them, I think, around 5 to 6 tasks to do, which was stacked. So week one, you do this, like you wake up before 7 a.m. And once your body starts getting used to that, you add another habit to that. So
Right.
you after you wake up, you drink a glass of warm water. So we went on stacking habits, which did not make it overwhelming. Because if I tell you to do 20 things, you'll not, I don't think you'll even do one thing. So when I start adding things slowly, it the person feels like, okay, let's try. And it gets a bit easy also. So that is how I approach this.
And you turned it into a game as well, right? There were teams, there were prizes, and different levels of prizes as well, right?
Yes. So we divided first, we asked everyone to find their Ayurveda body type. Then we divided them into teams based on their prakriti, like one person who's not very proactive with the person who's very proactive, so that they can push each other. And we had prizes and all of that. So it was, and we would update our tasks every day. So I finished these tasks, and there would be a deadline as well, a time frame. So it was fun.
And do any of your colleagues elsewhere, do any of your friends in the Ayurveda company or sorry, in the Ayurveda circle or community working in other companies, have they ever asked you about what you have been doing here and the kind of ways in which you have approached educating the team about Ayurveda?
Yes, they usually, are surprised. They're like, you don't consult patients a lot in this company, so what is it that you do? And yeah, they're surprised that our company is open to doing all this because the companies that they work at, they just do their job and they can't do anything outside their job description. So they are surprised that, this company is actually putting efforts to make their team learn about Ayurveda because not everyone wants to invest that time.
Right. And since the time that you joined, you're now also um, managing the work of another team member, another physician who's joined the team. So, what's been the big challenge between working by yourself versus now managing someone?
Well, it's actually the first time that I'm managing a doctor. I have managed therapy staff, nurses, and all of that, but
Hmm.
doctor is the first time. So he's like very junior to me. So their style of thinking is very different as to how we used to be as students and doctors. So yeah, it did take some time to, you know, get used to it and give feedback.
How did you
But
bridge that communication gap?
well, I was very open right from the beginning. Like, I have told my team member, like, you can share anything with me, and you don't have to think that I'm your senior, so you can't tell me certain things. And it's a collaboration. It's not like you're me. And of course, I have to push this person sometimes, to open up and share. So yeah, it did take a few months. But yeah, right from the beginning, I never had that thing like I'm your senior and you're my junior. Because I experienced that as a junior. The
Hmm.
seniors would be like, okay, we are your seniors. There's a certain way you have to treat us and be with us. So I never did that because I didn't want to. And I think that made things easy.
Right. And looking back at your professional journey so far, how do you have you looked back at it? Like, because if you look at it from the outside, it's not followed the conventional path, right?
Yeah.
So how do you look back at it now, where you're today?
Mm, when I look back, I think I wish I was a lot. I I wish I was a bit more outspoken because I think sometimes because of I'm a kind of an introvert, so I would not ask a lot of questions, or I would not you know say that, why don't you let us do this or that from our peers and our professors. So I wish I was a lot more outspoken, because when I see my juniors now, they're doing so many things, which is really nice to see. And we had that fear, of we would not do certain things because of that, because then we would have a tough time at college. So I wish I was a bit more rebellious in my college. Maybe I would have learned more early on instead of over the years.
And where you're today, how do you see that?
I am happy where I am today because I know a lot of my friends and um, ex colleagues who are doing work but they are not happy doing because they are following what they are being told to do, but they don't have the freedom to do what they actually want to do. And yeah, touch wood, I have that freedom, and that makes a big impact, right, in your work and what you actually want to do in the world. So yeah.
And you make it sound as if everything has been very hunky dory and rosy since the time you joined this company. Has it always been like that?
For me, yes, because I remember right from the first day I joined this company, everyone has been very supportive, and they have. It gives you an environment to polish your skills and pick up new skills, irrespective of it being related to your field or not. So when you're in that environment, you will be happy working.
Great. I think that's a good point where we end our interview. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes, thanks for having me, Raghav.